What's up, everyone? It's the Ant Hill Show here, ready to talk about the 49ers and the trade deadline. Jason, the 49ers have a very, very good team, and they've already made a huge deal for Christian McCaffrey. Do you believe the 49ers have another trade out there that they can make?
I think they do. I I think John might be working the phones for some secondary help.
Do you have anyone in particular that you're thinking? Because I mean, I would think the same thing. Since you've had to move De'Amaro Lenore out of the nickel spot. I feel like the defense is still good, but it hasn't been great because Emmanuel Mosley made this defense great. Being able to put him and Ward on an island.
Just go
Who is
cover
who?
somebody.
Yeah, who
Done.
are players out there, that you believe the 49ers could be interested in going out and getting?
I don't. I think part of it would be a scheme fit. So on that end, I'd probably have to defer to your knowledge there. So I ask you the question: who would be a good scheme fit that we could actually get?
Well, the first name that pops into my head is somebody that we were interested in getting all during the offseason. I mean, we ended up getting Travis Ward, which I'm very happy about. But Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore goes to the Colts. The Colts are struggling right now. They're going with Ellinger. He wants to win football games. It might be time to start piecing out that team. Now
They lost again yesterday.
yeah,
too.
and his deal is a little over $7 million this season, which means prorated it's going to be a lot cheaper. We're already halfway through the season. He's going to come
point.
through. He's going to hit you for about $3.5 million against this cap. And then during the offseason, you can let him go with only a $2 million cap hit. So he could be a nice rental. But what would you have to give up to the Colts to get him? I think is the bigger question. And would the Colts be willing to just dump his salary right now for draft capital? I don't know. But that was the first one that popped in my head.
I think that Reich and Ballard would make that trade for a 5 or maybe even a 6, especially after they lost yesterday. I think Irsay is hell bent on thinking that they have a chance still to win that division, and I think that's why you saw him force the Matt Ryan benching, because that was not Reich's call or Ballard's. It was literally Irsay being like, he's in now, which I think is a terrible thing for a meddling owner to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna put this guy in. So I'm not sure Gilmore's available because Irsay is probably still drugged up on all of his pain pills. They should have a fire sale. I think the Browns have a fire sale if they lose tonight. I think the Raiders might be looking to get off some people already. I don't see anybody in the Saints won yesterday, and with the Bucks having so many issues, I think the Saints still feel like they're in the mix. The 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 Jaguars aren't going to be sellers at all. I don't think the Broncos are sellers because they won yesterday. I think a lot of teams who could have been sellers, they all kind of won yesterday. So except the Raiders. So I think it's gonna. I think it might be maybe a little slower of a deadline than it could have been.
Yeah, I think the NFC South is a perfect example, right? Where everyone is basically around the same record. Now, Atlanta has the lead in the division, but they all feel like they're in the mix.
Yeah.
I mean, if Carolina would have pulled off that win, every single team in the division would have been the same record, which would have been, talk about parity.
That's mind blowing.
I do believe that, there are players out there, and you brought up the Browns. Greedy Williams has been mentioned about a possible, 49ers connection. I don't know how much of an upgrade is Greedy Williams. I know talent-wise coming out of LSU, he's considered a upgrade. But how big of an upgrade is he over a De'Amaro Lenore that you have right now that already understands the system and has been playing within your defense? I don't know if that is an actual target. What do you think?
I would like him. I saw him a lot at LSU, and there's certain schools who just seem to have the ability to produce studs at a certain spot, and LSU seems to be always able to produce good defensive backs. So, and he's a little bit obviously younger than Gilmore. So I would probably be a little more inclined to go after him too, and I might even throw in Ambry Thomas, you know, too.
I got another question for you.
Oh,
So,
that's not good.
Pittsburgh Steelers are struggling.
They are.
The 49ers once used a third-round pick on Ahkello Witherspoon. Ahkello Witherspoon, would you be interested in trading a late-round draft pick for Ahkello Witherspoon? Because I believe that Ahkello Witherspoon is better than Ambry Thomas, and Ambry Thomas has been having to come in and
pretty
play.
well, too, for him, actually.
Right. Would you be willing to go back and say, you know what? We can use Ahkello Witherspoon. He's better as far as depth than some of the guys that we got.
I'd call them, and I'd give them a 7 and see if they take that, or even 2 7s, honestly.
Yeah, because they might be willing to trade him. Now, I have to ask you this because this is going to be something that the 49ers faithful is going to ask. Can the 49ers trade for interior offensive line help with Jake Brendel, at center? Is there a trade out there for a center or a move that the 49ers can make to bolster that interior offensive line?
Center's our biggest need. Like, corner is probably second. So if we could get a center, I think that'd be good. I don't know cap wise if there's a guy that is good enough to give up the picks to acquire who can fit inside the cap, though.
Yeah, that's it, right? And you don't normally see centers get traded in this league. The 49ers, I don't think are going to trade for a center. I thought Chris Foerster had a very interesting thing he said a couple weeks ago where he said that Daniel Brunskill playing center was actually a stretch.
Yeah, that was weird.
That is interesting. I think that meant that Jake Brendel's probably going to be the guy. I thought maybe there would be some interest in Alex Mack, but maybe he's not interested in coming back. I think the 49ers might be stuck at the center position. I think Daniel Brunskill is a backup just in case. They're training their eventual backup in Nick Zakelj. I think that's what they're working towards. But they might just be stuck with Jake Brendel. I think Brendel's played a little bit better over the last several weeks, which is good. But it didn't take a lot to get better because he was struggling at first.
He gets moved around so easily, though.
He does, but you know what?
Light.
They're opening holes. They're making plays. He's good on second level blocks. Being able to use his skill set, the things he does well, is what Kyle Shanahan has to try to highlight.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a trade out there for an interior offensive lineman, and I don't think the Niners would be able to afford that. I think when we talk, the guys we talked about are probably there. With the Christian McCaffrey move, I no longer think they're interested in any skill players.
No.
So I don't think they're going to be tied to that. I think it is secondary. Interior offensive line, I just don't think interior offensive line is there. Potentially they could go secondary, and then always defensive line. If somebody becomes available, you might look defensive line. I still have been wondering what they're doing with the interior defensive line, even though those guys have played good. Surprised they haven't brought anyone else in to insulate themselves in case Kinlaw can't come back.
True. Now, who are some other guys that you're watching for other teams? There's 2 that
I think that there's some players that
locked on.
Probably going to be available. I think Chase Claypool is a guy that I've heard mentioned that is probably going to get moved, and I've been a huge fan of Claypool. I'm ignoring the off-the-field issues. I'm just talking about on-the-field stuff. I think he could be a dynamic, changer. And then I'm also I'm watching a couple running backs, Alvin Kamara and Kareem Hunt, to see where they end up. I think the Rams are going to make a big move trying to get one of those guys, trying to, keep this thing going. But I think that if the Eagles get, a player like Alvin Kamara, I'd be worried about them and their offense moving forward. So let's see what happens. I think New Orleans winning could have stopped the Alvin Kamara trade from happening, which could be very good for the NFC. But those are some names that I'm watching to see if they actually get moved.
Yeah, I think Kareem Hunt is going somewhere, and I can't see how it's not the Rams. Like I just don't see how they don't give up what the Browns will want for him, because Gerald Henderson's a nice running back, but they don't have anybody explosive out of backfield that really concerns defense. And then I'm glad that trade didn't happen before yesterday. I was thinking, man, he's gonna get there on like a Friday and come in and be like, oh crap, now we got to deal with him. The other guy too that I'm watching is Brandon Cooks to either back the Rams or the Packers might actually get him too.
Oh yeah, I wonder why you're bringing up Brandon Cooks.
Well, because he's a very good receiver.
Yeah, I wonder what he's worth. out there. I'm sure there's a lot that's going to be
Dude,
going out
always
there.
be getting traded though.
He does. And, Green Bay was definitely in conversations before he ever signed his extension
Yep.
with Houston.
That's true.
So that doesn't surprise me at
So was
all.
the Cowboys,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So Brandon Cooks, that is a fun name to watch. Any other time I'd have been like, man, let's add him to our roster. It depending on cost. I mean, shoot, the guy's fantastic. I just don't think we're going to add any more weapons. But you know what he would be? What everyone wants Danny Gray to be.
Yep.
He already
is that, exactly.
Yeah, you want to hit if Kyle Shanahan wants to hit the nuclear button, just make that move.
But him to the Packers would scare me because that would give Rodgers at least someone to throw the ball to.
We've already seen him have one guy to throw to. It didn't work out well for him in the playoffs.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And Devontae, I love Brandon, and he's got huge speed. But Devontae is a different cat. I mean, that dude's crazy.
He's a monster. But and you get Cobb back with Watkins plus the kids. It would at least give Rodgers. It would kind of set their wide receiver room more in a.
Do I think it would help them? Yes,
absolutely would.
Brandon Cooks is a big time player in this league. I mean, he's had probably one of the most quiet careers you could ever think of. He's just 1,000 every single year.
He's 1,080 and 8 just about every single year.
And I do think it would help that football team.
But they have a lot of holes.
Yeah, they do. And that's the thing is Aaron Rodgers looks like he's got 1 foot out. Him and Tom Brady right now are straddling the line of retirement. They could always turn it on. Those two guys have that ability. I don't want to see them get any talent for that mere reason.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the trade deadline is going to be interesting. I think it could be all quiet from the 49ers. Yeah. I think they will look to improve the defensive back room if they can. But is there going to be a move out there, and is it going to be cost effective? I think that's the bigger question.
What is it? 1 o'clock tomorrow's the deadline?
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming up quick, and I hope everyone is excited for it. I know I am. I'm going to be watching. Seeing what moves get made because some of the moves around the league could influence, the 49ers into the season. But overall, it's all about playing well, doing what you need to do, and let's see what John Lynch can come up with. Before we head out, do you think they'll trade someone like Jeff Wilson Jr.?
It wouldn't shock me, but I think since we haven't really heard anything about how Elijah's doing yet, which kind of makes me think that he might not be back after the bye week, right?
He's supposed to be back, and Kyle Shanahan said.
Heard it.
Shanahan said 2 weeks ago that he had no setbacks and was on target to come back that week. They'll open up his window probably next week, and then we'll get an idea.
If that's the case, then it wouldn't shock me to see Wilson get moved.
I don't think they're going to trade him. I think they've been snake bitten by running back injuries. And they're just going to be like, you know what? We're going to roll with this. If he leaves in the offseason, we'll get a comp pick back. What's the value difference between the comp pick that you're going to get and the actual draft pick you would get in a trade? Keep him. Let's see what happens. Play it out. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. You went all in with CMC, and having CMC, Elijah Mitchell, and Jeff Wilson Jr. is the best running back room, in my opinion, in the entire division. Even in the NFC.
Whole league.
There you go. If Elijah Mitchell's healthy, right, whole league. So, and let us know what you think about the trade deadline. Are the 49ers going to make a move? Is there another cornerback that we're not thinking of? Is there an offensive lineman that we're not thinking of? If there is, let us know in the comments section. We'll love to have that conversation. I think it's a lot of fun, and let's see what the Niners do. But, Jason, storming through this bye week content, I think it's going to be a lot of fun over the next several days. Everyone keep checking in on the channel. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified every time a video goes live. Hope you guys all have a good one.
I'm just glad the NFL actually has trades now, because for most of our lives, the NFL trade deadline was a non-factor. Like there was never any trades. You wouldn't see anything. Now it actually gets some movement, which is kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, Kyle talked about that a little bit a few weeks ago. After the McCaffrey stuff, the differences in the league, and he's excited that the league has went this way. I think it makes for more exciting times. The NFL is all about keeping you engaged, and they do a really good job of having something come up all the time. And right during the middle of the season, here comes the trade deadline. But we'll see if the 49ers make a move, but we're going to make a move right out of here. But we'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good day. Go Niners.